Welcome to Season 2 of Beyond Beauty with Stephanie. I am your host, Stephanie, licensed esthetician and the owner of Balam Aesthetics in Magnolia, Texas, where we nourish your skin and feed your soul. I am so excited you're here because we're back and kicking off Season 2 with a story that will move you to your core. This episode is titled Unbreakable, Overcoming Tragedy, Choosing Life, and Defying the Odds. Today, I have the incredible honor of sitting down with Rachel, a woman whose journey is marked by both unimaginable pain and unshakable faith. Rachel opens up about surviving childhood traumas, enduring the heartbreak of being sexually assaulted as a teenager, and facing an unexpected pregnancy as a result of that assault. With pressure from every side, she made a bold, faith-filled choice to carry and give life to her child despite what the world told her to do. Her path hasn't been easy, but through every twist and turn, Rachel chose courage over fear, purpose over pain, and most importantly, faith over everything. This episode is about what it means to rise when everything around you is trying to keep you down. It's for the woman who's felt broken, overwhelmed, maybe even hopeless. Rachel's story is proof that God's light reaches even the darkest corners and that no matter what you've been through, He's not done with your story. So let's step into the season together with open hearts and open hands as we begin this journey of resilience, redemption, and unbreakable faith. Let's dive in. So first, I want to thank you, Rachel, for being here. We haven't known each other very long, but we instantly hit it off and had a lot of things in common that created a bond with an almost 3-hour meeting at a coffee shop talking about life.
Right. And that was fun.
It was a
I know
long
a lot
one,
of
but it was
people, yeah,
good.
for sure. It was.
So you've been through a lot. I know quite a bit of your story from the meeting that we had, and I'm amazed with your strength and your positivity today, despite all you have been through. I remember meeting you the first time at the WCE meeting, and I think I even told you, I was like, your energy is just amazing. I love your
Oh,
energy. You're
thank
just
you.
very outgoing and bubbly and happy. And yeah, we need more Rachels in this world for sure.
I can't even handle myself.
Um, yeah, no, it's great though. It's just refreshing.
Thank
So
you.
it's nice. I want to go back. We'll start this interview with, we're going to go back to childhood.
Okay.
So could you tell us just a little bit about your childhood, what that looked like for you growing up, and just what you have
Yes,
to share about that?
I would love to talk about that. There's so much good that went on in my childhood, but there is an overshadow of a lot of really hard things that, myself and we as a family went through growing up. We didn't really have a lot of money, so we ate a lot of fish from the Texas City dikes. um, we tons of fish. I was raised. My dad had been married a couple times, but I was mainly raised by my stepmother and my dad. I'm a family of six, um, six brothers and sisters. Um, I had a brother.
Big
I
one.
had a brother who died at 19 years old. But when he was born normal, but he ended up having, I guess, SIDS or whatever, and ended up with cerebral palsy growing up. So I did take care of
Oh,
him a lot,
I'm sorry.
changing diapers and feeding, and I was the oldest, so I
Right.
had a lot of responsibility there. That put a lot of stress on our family, just having that go on,
Yeah.
and having a brother that had those issues and stuff. I was I was raised by my dad, who was a really, really great man, and it's a complicated thing to talk about because my dad was a highly functioning addict as well, but he kept us in church. He loved the Lord. We were in church every Sunday and Wednesday, even if my parents didn't want to go, they called a cab and they sent us to
Oh,
church. So I
love
I
that.
have a great foundation of the Lord in my life, which would turn out to be the greatest thing that ever happened to me, to be honest, because I would need that foundation
Yes.
to get through the rest of my life and all the things that were going to happen in the days and the years to come, you know. That
Yeah.
that foundation rooted in Christ has been probably it's been the thing that has helped me overcome all the different things you'll hear about today, you know. My
Amen.
dad was a heart checker. He would always ask us, "Hey, you know, how's your heart?" I remember the first time he asked me that, I was like, "What does that mean? You know, why are you asking?" And he said, "Well, what I mean is what's going on in there? Like, how's your heart doing? How are you feeling in there? You know?" And then I would sit down with them and tell him how I feel. And if it wasn't feeling good, he would he would check the heart. He would like it would we would call him his
Hmm.
heart doctor. Um,
I love
yeah,
that.
the unlicensed heart doctor, because he could literally we could literally sit with him, and because of his love for the Lord as well, even beyond his addictions, um, all we could hear is the power of his words and how much he loved God, you know? And no matter what his addictions were and those things were, he still kept us rooted in Christ, and he still had very positive things to say. He always kept us uplifted, um, as as much as I mean, as much as he could, I guess, in that regard.
Yeah.
Um, but in saying all of that, we did suffer a lot of mental, physical. Like I said, it's so complicated to say the story because maybe people wouldn't understand that I'm saying he was such a great man. He was rooted in Christ and he loved the Lord because he did, but he did have his addictions, and sometimes that
Yeah. Well, we're not
yeah,
perfect, right?
we're
I
not
mean,
perfect.
that's the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
We all
And
fall
that's the
short.
thing. That is the truth right there. We're not perfect. And the fact that he was so imperfect, but he was so truthful with us too. He sat us down and he
Yep.
told us these are my problems. These are my addictions. I hate them. I don't like them. And I wish I was this, but
Yeah.
this is who I am. And I want you to love me for who I am, truly who I am, and not for who I'm pretending to be. And that was the greatest thing about
Right.
him, is that throughout our whole life, that was the thing. He wanted us to love him for who he was and all the mistakes he would make, and now in the here and now and in the future. And so
He was real.
he was
And that's
very,
what
very
Christ is
real.
all about,
He was
right?
very real. He would cry. He would say, you know, I hate that I'm addicted to this. I hate these are my problems, but I have to let you know that way you can love me for the man that I am. You could choose whether or not you're going to love me or not, you know? And that is to me
Yeah.
is a powerful thing, because a lot of parents don't like to talk to their kids and even reveal to them the truth about themselves, you know?
Yeah.
Because my dad
Yep.
was like that, as I've been able to be very honest and open with my own children about all the mistakes that I've made, which have allowed them to come to me and talk to me about everything, because they don't feel like
Yeah.
I'm gonna disappoint my mom. She was so perfect. She was so amazing all the time. They know all the
Right.
goods and the bads, ups and downs of me, you know? And the reason I
Yes.
did
Yes.
that with
That's good.
them is because it was so important to me that my dad did that with us. There was nothing I could never come to my dad about, and I wouldn't feel judged, and I wouldn't feel like
Yeah.
he was disappointed in me. He would literally he could
That's good.
understand everything, you know, and never judge me, just
Yeah.
love me through it. But in saying all of that, we did come from a very physical, mentally, sexually abusive. I personally went through sexual abuse with my step grandfather, as well as a friend of my dad's who would come around as a child. Um, he didn't know. I'm assuming he didn't know about it when I was younger. He didn't really find out about it or me say anything to him until I got a little older. Um, my grandfather, my stepmom had him come live with us, and when I was 12 years old for my birthday, he bought me a birthday cake and had me sit on his lap, and then he fondled me and did all those things, and it was a very uncomfortable place to be. And then, you know, I went and told my
Mm.
parents that night, and basically it was the last night we ever saw him again, because my dad had kicked me
Yeah.
out and all those things. And when he was kicked out of the house, um, I had to live the next 3 years until I ran away from home at 15 and moved in with my 18-year-old boyfriend. I had to live with my stepmom and my grandmother, my step grandmother, in that very uncomfortable situation, because my grandmother and my grandfather at that time were living together in the house, still married. And because I went and told on what had happened, I got a lot of really ugly looks, and it was just a very
Mm.
uncomfortable place to be. So it
Toxic.
very toxic and very uncomfortable. I never felt comfortable there after that. I felt like they blamed me for him not being around anymore. and maybe they didn't even believe me. I didn't know, it was just very uncomfortable.
Right.
So after all of that, I ended up running away so much from that household, that my dad finally, I had an 18-year-old boyfriend at the time, and he had his own apartment. And I ended up running away to him so much that my dad finally said, I remember him coming to his house, knocking on the apartment door with a big bag of my clothes and saying, please take care of my daughter. I have a sick son at home. I can't keep her at home. She keeps running away. Just take good care of her, and dropped all my stuff off to him. So
Mm,
I've been out of my home since I was
yeah.
15. Um,
Right.
but like I said, it's a complicated thing because my dad is gone now. And
Yeah.
you almost would have to live my life and be in my home to know, why I can still say he was a really great man, even despite all those things, because he really was. He taught us some really great lessons. One I want to mention before I go to my boyfriend, one of the lessons that he taught us was that, to never love things more than, like basically, I'll just tell you a story real quick. When we were younger for Christmas, we never got any new stuff. It was always like used stuff. And for the first time we got this brand new doll. I got a brand new doll, my sister got a brand new doll, my brother got a brand new Tonka truck, and we were so excited about it. And my dad, we're playing with our dolls, we're so excited. We didn't want to even play with anything else. He had said to us, he said a couple hours to let us play with these toys, and he came in the room and he's like, hey, what was your favorite toy? What did you love the most out of all your presents today? And we're like, oh, I love my baby doll. And my sister's like, I love my brand new doll. And my brother's like, I love my Tonka trunk. He's like, well, get all that stuff and put it in a bag. We're taking it over here to somebody else, like somebody else that's gonna needs that more than you do, right? And we're so confused. We're like, what? It's our first brand new toy. Like, why are we giving this toy away? And so we're crying. I'm holding my doll. We didn't end up putting it in the bag. I'm holding my doll, crying out the window. I remember my dad looking at the rearview mirror, pointing it down at me, and he's like, Rach, how you feeling back there? You're upset, aren't you? And I'm like, I'm mad. I want my doll. I'm crying. Everybody's crying. And he's like, you're gonna feel differently whenever we head back home. You're gonna feel a whole different feeling. So we get to this place, and it's like this old rundown trailer park. I mean, it look broker than us, that's for sure. And all of these
Yeah.
kids come
Yeah.
running out of this trailer. And I'm holding my doll really close to me. And my dad's standing beside me, and this little girl's just standing there in front of me, like she knew she was getting something. And I'm just like, "What?"
Oh, yeah.
My dad's like, give her the doll. I give her the doll, and this girl's face lights up so big, and she's smiling so
Oh,
happy. I couldn't help but to feel joy in my heart. I couldn't
right.
help to feel
That's amazing.
love and like excited that she was more excited than me. So on the way home, my dad looks out the rearview mirror again. He's like, Rach, how do you feel now? I'm like, Dad, I can't wait till next Christmas. Like, can we do this? I
Oh,
couldn't wait.
so cute.
He taught us lessons like that. He taught us very valuable
Yes.
lessons that, so now that if I have something on my person, whether it's my shirt, if it's a purse, and somebody gives a better reaction to it than I initially had, I want to give it to them. I'm like, you can
You're like,
have
take
it.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
it ain't that important.
Well, and I don't think it's weird that you say, or I don't think it sounds odd that you say he was a good man,
Yeah.
because no matter what, anyone with an addiction, like no one wants to be
Yeah.
addicted to drugs or an
Right.
alcoholic, or you know what I mean?
Right.
So we're most people are good people.
Yeah.
We just
I
do
agree.
bad things or we make bad decisions, right? So I don't think that's weird at all.
Right.
I totally believe that your dad was
And
amazing.
he
And it
was.
sounds like he was truly
He
amazing.
really was, and he kept us in church. Like I said, even
Yeah,
no matter what, that was important. And he knew that it was going to be important for us. He didn't always know what was going to come in the future, but because he did,
right.
is why I'm the person I am today, is why I'm so forgiving, why I'm so
Exactly.
loving, why I still so believe in the power of prayer and people. People can make mistakes, and I see it as a mistake, not their overall who they are as a person. You know what I mean?
Right. You have a lot of
A
grace.
lot
You
of,
have a lot of grace.
yes, like
That's important.
sometimes I feel like it's too much, because
Yeah.
you
Yep.
get hurt a lot when you're that kind of person. You're allowing people, you're constantly forgiving. So I'm learning now forgiveness and boundaries. I always thought forgiveness, keep
Yes.
I'm saying you had to keep accepting that person in your life, but forgiveness
Right.
and boundaries, they go hand in hand. You can forgive and set boundaries. I know a lot of people that I have forgiven but set boundaries and said, well, you're setting this boundary, you must not forgive me. No, I forgive you. I love you so much. I forgive you. But I had to set this boundary because you have done this and it hurt.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, I have someone that can't come to my home anymore. I love her to death, but she's not allowed in my home. And I remember her telling me, it's because you think you're better than me because you don't forgive me. No, it's because you come to my home and you've done these things. I forgive you and I love you. I'm not angry, which releases me of a lot is the forgiveness. You don't walk around with that anger. You don't
Right.
walk around resentment.
Right. You can't continue to let I mean, if someone continues to do things,
Yes.
there has to be
Yes.
boundaries or you will be a doormat and it is toxic. That's not
So
okay.
I have
So boundaries are super important.
100%. And see, boundaries are like a new thing people are talking about in the last few years. I didn't know anything about
Yes.
boundaries in the
Yes.
past. I'm like, what's that? Even me, I was like, don't be
Especially the way we grew up. There
yes,
was no
there were
like, "What?"
zero boundaries, and I remember like, "Who's setting
Yes.
boundaries with me?" You know what I mean? Like, now now, because even I need boundaries too with my kids sometimes. They gotta be like, "Mom, I
Yes.
love you, but you can't do that, or you can't say that." And then I'm
Yep.
like, "Oh, okay. Well, we could have never gotten away with saying that to my parents. That's for sure."
No, right? Same. And the more that we practice boundaries with other people in our lives, I
Yes,
think the more we're accepting of them when like our kids set
100.
boundaries or you know
Now
what I
we
mean? Because we're
understand.
like, okay, I know what this is. I
Yes,
get this.
now we understand,
Yeah.
and they're so important, and it's not any holier than thou. It's not because you think you're better than anybody else. It's just because you're
Right.
saying in the Bible it says that the Lord asks us to guard our hearts, not to cast your pearls among swine. There's reasons why he says that. He knows there are bad things going to happen. He knows that your heart can be heavily affected if you don't forgive and if you don't set boundaries, because you are going to have to live with, you have to sit in that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
forgiveness,
over and over.
the next thing I have to tell you is the reason why forgiveness is the most important thing you will ever need to have in your life. And forgiveness isn't always for
Yep.
the other person. What I realize is that because I've suffered consequences of my own in life, whether someone has forgiven me or not, I have had to suffer the consequences. I had to realize that other people do too. So when people hurt
Yeah.
you, when somebody hurt me, I learned to forgive because I understood the fact that my forgiveness doesn't release them from their consequences. It releases
Right.
me from it releases me from being held back from moving forward, right?
Yeah.
It
Yep.
releases them from nothing. It releases them from they don't get released from consequences. They're going to suffer them whether
Right.
forgive them or not. You know what I mean? But the forgiveness is for
Right.
you to be able to say, you know
Yep.
what, I forgive you. You're gonna suffer your consequences no matter what. Me holding on to
Yes.
you, I have this thing that you can have me for a minute, but you can't keep me for a lifetime. You know what I'm saying? I can't control what you do
Yeah.
to me, but I can certainly control how I'm gonna live the rest of my life. And it angers me to think
Right.
I'm gonna let someone control me more than 5 minutes. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, not
No.
really
Yeah.
5 minutes,
Nope.
but you know, so
Yep.
going back, I did leave home when I was 15 and with my 18-year-old boyfriend. Um, about 2 years into that relationship, um, we had one of his ex-girlfriends live with us, move in. I was very naive. I thought, oh, it's an ex-girlfriend. She's from, you know,
Oh.
McAllen, Texas, far, far away. I've never even heard of this girl. We'll be friends, let's be friends. Seriously, I thought she was one of my great friends. It turns out she wasn't so, but I thought that, and
Oh.
how naive we can be at such a young age. So
Yep.
we became friends. Um, it was coming up on my boyfriend's birthday in June. I think June 12th was coming. His birthday was coming up, I wanted to get him something for his birthday. I was like, "Oh, I really want to get him something for his birthday, blah blah blah." And she's like, "Oh, I know this guy that lives in the apartments who's a photographer." And I'd seen the guy around the apartment several times going to the pool. I'd be laying out and all that stuff, but never had a conversation with him. He'd always walk around with this big boa constrictor around his neck. So it was very obvious who he was when she said that. I'm
Mm.
can't miss him because he's always got this big snake around his neck.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
she said he's a photographer and that he had talked to her about, oh, she'd be a great person to take pictures for our magazine. That supposedly he had a magazine that he took pictures for, and that I would be a great candidate for this swimsuit magazine. And so when she told me that, she's like, he'll give you like $50. $50 to a 17-year-old was a lot of money back then. I
Right.
I did, she reassured me that I would have my clothes on, that everything would be legit. It's not anything worried that I'd be worried about or weird about or anything like that. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm very outgoing. I can talk to anybody and everyone's my friend. And that's how I've always,
Well, and he lives there,
and
right?
it
Like, you're
lives
like, "Oh, he lives by me, like,
yeah.
it's gotta be"
And
yeah.
I just, you just don't think, even though things have happened to me in the past, you just don't think that's going to keep happening. Maybe you've suffered all the
Right.
things you're going to suffer and you're moving on with life now. So get to his apartment and he introduces himself and he's showing me pictures. He's got a two-bedroom apartment. One of the apartments have like, and I'm telling this story because it's my biggest story that people need to hear. Like it is just
Yes.
it's the blessing in disguise. It's my first encounter with blessings in disguise that I recognized, right? So
Yes.
that's why I'm
This
going
your story is
straight
incredible.
into the
It
story.
is.
So he starts showing me pictures and he's legit. He is really a photographer. I find out later he really was a photographer, taking advantage of his position as a photographer with young girls, with me in particular. I don't know about his whatever. So she leaves and I remember him going to the apartment door and locking the door, but it's locked. He was a really tall African American guy, really tall, and he locked the door and it was going to be way too high for me to ever unlock. I remember him locking it and feeling immediately scared. Like, why is that lock so
Oh.
high? I'm just looking at all this, like, what is going on here? He tells me to go into the restroom, take my clothes off. I've got my bathing suit up underneath my clothes and he starts taking pictures. He's like, do this pose and do that pose and do this pose. And I start feeling comfortable. I'm like, okay, he's cool. He's not being weird. And my intuitive scaredness kind of went away for a while until he told me to lay down on this white leather couch that he had. And I'm like, well, why do I need to lay down? And he's just like, lay down. So I lay down. Immediately when he said it that way, I knew I needed to lay down. I didn't ask any more questions. I didn't
Mm.
scream. I didn't yell. I didn't ask for help, nothing. Just lay down. I lay down and he tells me he starts pulling like my bathing suit bottoms. He's like, take your clothes off. And I'm literally like, well, she said I could just keep my bathing suit on. And he's like, take your clothes off. So I take my clothes off. I don't ask any questions. I
Oh.
just do what he says. So now I'm laying there nude. And I hope this is okay to get into this kind of detail. Is this is
Yes.
okay?
Yes, it's fine. This is your story. I mean, just tell your
Well,
story.
I'm not going to go into all the detail, but I do want
Right.
others to understand the gravity of this so they could also understand the forgiveness of this. You know what I mean? So,
Right. Right.
um, I told you previously he had a big boa constrictor. He pulls this big snake out and he lays this snake on my body. And all I knew at that age as a 17-year-old, having a snake on your body, you're just gonna die. Like I literally reasoned with the fact at some point through this, why he's taking pictures of me in fear. This snake's tongue is slithering all over my ear, and
Mm.
it's heavier, I think, on my body than I am as even as a person. I felt like I was just being crushed. I couldn't hardly breathe with this snake. It was huge.
Yeah.
And so I lay there thinking, I'm gonna die. This is it for me. And I reasoned with the fact, and I got to a point of peace and okay with the fact that this was it. Like it's a weird
Right.
feeling when you get to a point where you're like, you accept that this is your last day on earth.
Right.
And before I accepted that, I remember looking at him taking these pictures with this weird face, very excited about the fear that I had in my face. But then I looked at him and I thought, I'm not going to be in fear anymore. I'm reasoning with this. And I think my face just went numb. And I decided
Mhm.
I'm ready to go. Right. It's almost like he saw that transition and he was messing with me because as soon as that happened, it seemed like he pulled that snake off of me and he said, okay, get up. And I was mad. I was mad because I
Yeah.
decided I was okay with this, and it took a lot for me to get there, and you just freaking took that from me. And I know that's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's weird to it's
No, I don't know.
I was angry with the fact that I was ready to go, and he decided, "No, you're not." Like, he's making decisions for me with my life.
Yes. It's a control thing.
Yes.
Control.
He saw my reckoning with that. I know he did. He was that deep.
Yep.
He saw. So, he pulls the snake off of my body and he tells me to lay down. It was very weird because it wasn't to lay down in a bedroom or on a bed. He had a restroom to the right, he had another bedroom to the left, and there was this hallway that stretched behind those two rooms. And he had me lay on the floor there. And he decided he was going to assault me. And he did. But he didn't fully finish there. He made me stand up in the restroom why he finished, why he was saying all these nasty, disgusting things to me and making me, every time I would look down, he would make me look at him. He's like, look at me, just look at me. You're scared of this. I know this creeps you out. You never seen anything like this, have you? Just being nasty, about how big he was and all this stuff until he finished. And then he let me go. I put on my bathing suit top. I didn't even get enough time to put my bottoms on. I just put my bathing suit top and I walked to the door. He threw the money at me and I did. I don't know why I did, but I did. I took the $50, the $50 bill laying on the floor outside. I grabbed the money and I ran down the stairs.
Well, you're just not in your right
Yeah, not
mind,
in my
right?
right
Like
mind.
you're
I just
not,
picked it
yeah.
up and I ran with no bottoms on, with the bathing suit top on through the apartment complex, crying all the way home. I didn't see one single person on that way because we were just he was an apartment building behind me, the same apartments. We were in front of him, so it was not a very long run to get back to my apartment. And
Yeah.
I ran fast. I was very scared. Got to my apartment and one of my best friends who also lived there with us, um, as soon as I opened the door, she immediately standing there and I just fell into her arms. Her name is Dawn. Um,
Mm,
and maybe someday you could talk to her too because she could just tell you even more just how she felt about seeing that whole thing happen.
yeah.
And I tell her everything that happens. The girl that brought me up there that day, the friend, had moved out in the couple of hours I had been up there in that apartment. We never saw her again.
What?
She moved out. Like,
Oh my
it's like
goodness.
in the 2 hour window that I was at this man's apartment, she had moved out and we have never heard or seen her again from her again. So in a way, I thought maybe I was set up, because then it turned
Right.
from my boyfriend, I'm finding out that she had been trying to, mess around with him the whole time that we were living in the apartment together.
Mm,
To make the long story
ugh.
short, after that, I found out I was pregnant. I was scared to death. Although he didn't fully, I don't know if I can say the word, um,
Well, I mean, just say what you need to say.
although he didn't fully ejaculate with me inside of me, I had to watch him do that. I I didn't still know though if I could be pregnant with his baby or the father of my boyfriend's baby because obviously I was moved in with
Uh-huh.
him and we were obviously together. It was a very scary time. So then I did not tell my boyfriend at the time that this had happened. I made Dawn say, don't say anything. I was threatened not to say anything, so I didn't until I was 4 months pregnant. And then I finally told him what
Mm,
had happened. And so when he found out what happened, we went to this guy's apartment, banged on the door. He was ready to hurt somebody basically. And we went to the apartment, uh, the leasing office. And they told us he had moved out. He had moved to California to pursue his photography career, but they couldn't give us any more information because it's illegal. So we
oh my
we did,
gosh.
we went to my church against everybody. Listen, against everybody telling me, and the odds were to us that maybe it was going to be more his than his. We didn't know, but it didn't matter, right? Everyone kept saying, even my church would tell us, you need to give this baby. If you have this baby and it's not his, you need to give it up for adoption. Maybe you should just get an abortion.
Mm,
All the advice is against having this pregnancy because of what had happened to me. But there was something in my heart that I knew I can do this. It doesn't matter
yeah.
what happens here. I can love this child. So
Right.
when she was born, it was obvious that she was not, you know, Sergio's baby, which was the father of the three other kids that I have now, my boyfriend at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He signed the birth
Mm-hmm.
certificate as the father, and he said it didn't matter. We were going to raise this baby, and we were going to love her, and
Oh,
he was going to be her father, and there was going to be no adoptions. There was going to be none of that, and I had that support system from him.
right.
To go backwards just a little bit, I remember being pregnant with my daughter Alexis and sitting on the couch and saying to myself, by the time I get up from this couch, I'm going to have decided whether I'm keeping this child or not. Because I was conflicted. And I sat with
Yeah, I'm
myself. That
sure.
seemed like hours, but it was probably just minutes. And I'm like, when I get up, that's just going to be the answer. Whatever it is, I say to myself. And I remember jumping up from the couch and saying, I'm going to have a baby and I'm going to love her. And I had her. And the moment I held her in my arms and I knew that she wasn't my boyfriend's baby, I fell in love with her anyway. I
Yeah.
fell in love with her. And it made me realize, luckily I was raised up in the church to realize this. And I probably had other blessings in disguise before this, but this was the first time I'd actually realized it. Looking at her and thinking, this is a blessing in disguise. I've heard blessings in disguise a million times, and this is what this means. Like,
Yeah.
there are hidden blessings in all life's messes, basically, you know? Um,
Oh, well, and babies are a blessing,
yes.
plain and simple,
And she
right? Like,
really was. And everybody was shocked. Like, I remember even after having her, people would have their little snotty words that they would say, or like, oh my God, I can't believe, there's no way that baby's going to be loved, all this
oh,
stuff. But my God, if you were
wow.
to meet her and see the love that she has been, um, that she has had, the love that she has been given, she is no different nor set apart from any of her brothers and sisters. You
Right.
know, the
Right.
kids would always
Right.
tell me like she's your favorite. And I think that they could say that, they could maybe feel that way because maybe I went out of my way to give her extra love to make sure to cross my T's and dot my I's that when she did grow up, she knew she was loved. That could have been something I did unconsciously, subconsciously, but I felt like I loved her like I loved all the other ones, all my other kids.
Right.
So
Right. So like a trauma bond,
yeah, for
like
sure. Yeah,
it's a very unique, not totally unique. It does happen, but
right.
it's a unique situation.
So then the question is, how did I overcome that and not feel angry and not feel um uh resentment towards my child or even towards
Yeah.
this man? Um, it's because I forgave him and I forgave myself. You know,
Yeah.
I had to take accountability for me saying to because accountability is key to a lot of things. I mean, you now walking down the street in the middle of the night in the dark, you're walking down the street, you're getting into your car. What can you take accountability for? You're trying to get to your car. You're leaving the department store. You got to get to your car. But for me, the accountability was I shouldn't have ever gone up to someone's apartment that I didn't know, right? I wasn't blaming myself
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, this is all my fault," but I was saying, "Where can I take accountability here so that I can also see where I could have make a different choice next time?" Right?
That's the only way we learn, right?
Right.
Is if we take accountability
Yes.
for those
And that
things
was
and
just me
learn from
walking up the
them
stairs.
and grow from them.
Yes, it was me
Yeah.
walking up the stairs to this stranger's apartment, and I should have never done that, right? But that didn't mean that I should have gotten sexually assaulted either.
Right. Yeah.
So I took accountability for myself where I was able to learn something from it and learn next time I will never go to a stranger's apartment again or go and be in a car with a stranger or anything like that. Some people can know that ahead of time. I was more naive than that, I guess. And then I had to forgive him and not say, I'm not forgiving him and saying, what you did was okay. I forgive you. What I'm saying is I forgive you because I need to be released from this so I can move forward and love my child and have a productive life and be able to be successful in life, you know?
Hmm.
And I understood that he was going to have to suffer his consequences. Either the God was going to do that for him at some point in life, and I'm
Yep.
sure he has, and maybe still is,
Yes.
you know?
Yep.
Um, and just that forgiveness and that accountability that I took, I never thought about that again. It didn't hinder me from my growth in life because I didn't keep that on my back. I didn't
You didn't dwell on it and
dwell on
think
it.
about it. It wasn't,
No,
yes.
because the thing is Stephanie, it already happened. It already happened to me.
Yeah.
Why am I going to sit in that? It's already happened. So when it's already happened, now you got to figure out how do you move forward from this? Not how do you
Yes. I
stay
love that.
stuck in this? How do you move
Yep.
forward? And let me
For
tell
yourself
you,
and for your
for
family,
myself, for my
right?
family. I have kids that are depending on me. I have a daughter that didn't ask to be here, and one day she's gonna have to know the story. There's no freaking way I was going to have this terrible, sad life and then tell her the story. It made me.
Right.
It made me proud that I was able to give her this fun, exciting, loving life, and that one day she's gonna hear the story and she's gonna know. She's not gonna say, "Oh, that's why my mom was so sad her whole life." It was gonna be more like,
Yes.
man, I'm so shocked by this because you were so positive and you were so loving and you were so it was gonna make her not have to suffer for the mistakes that I made in life. You know what I mean? So much.
Right. Yes.
So she found out when she was about 9 because somebody had called the Montel Williams show. Back at the time, there was a show called Williams, a talk show.
Yes, I
Yes.
remember.
My mom, it turned out to be my mom that called the show and told them my story. And they called us to come on the show. They were going to find the guy. They were going to do all the investigations, all this stuff. Well, I hadn't even told my daughter anything at that time. She was only 9.
Oh,
But at the same time, I thought it was an opportunity to maybe I was going to have to give her the truth, but maybe we can find the truth also, right? They were going to help
Yeah.
find this person. And if anything ever came up health wise or anything like that, we'd have that support maybe, you know what I mean? Um, so when so I went in the room, I told the show, I'd call them back. I went into the room and I sat down with her very lovingly and held her hand. And I told her I had something to tell her. And I didn't tell her details, but I told her the gist of it and why I was doing it. It was a long conversation. And she literally just grabbed my hand. She's like, Mama, I'm so sorry that happened to you. She was concerned for me,
No.
but that she wasn't ready to be on a show like that to expose herself and all that stuff. She's just
Yeah.
out. And so we decided against it. And they invited us back anytime we wanted to come back and do the whole thing. So, so now she knows. So from 9 years old to now she knows. And now that we have like the DNA stuff coming out, she's been able to find part of that family and actually have
Oh, okay.
conversations with part of that family. Um, she's been reaching out, trying to find answers, but not letting them know what happened. Just basically, we came up with this thing and just, if you find the family member, just tell them that was maybe like a one night stand and you're trying to find your dad, blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's basically what we did come up with. That way she's not reaching out saying, hey, you're so and so raped my mom at 17,
Yeah.
all that. It would scare them away. She
Oh,
wanted to find him. So we haven't found him directly, but she has found the family and she has access to that if she's ready to move forward with that. But
wow. Yeah.
the overall thing here is that after that all happening, I created a group called Life After Rape and Sexual Assault on Facebook, where I've not only talked to women, but I've talked to a lot of men who are looking at my story and thinking, how are you so positive about this? I have people that are 60 years old that this happened to them when they're 10 and they're still sitting in it. They've never been able to fully live.
Yeah.
They've never been able to fully
Yep.
live their life. You only have this one life. And it is so important that when these things happen, if they've already happened, to find a way to move forward, not ever forgetting it or not ever releasing that person from what they did, but releasing yourself from what they did you know
Yeah.
and now I'm owning a successful business and I raised four beautiful successful children. And can I tell you that it's not that's completely not had anything, that I don't have any trauma from it. No, I'm sure I do. I'm absolutely sure that,
Right.
but it hasn't controlled my destiny. you know
Yeah.
I fight for my life every day. I fight for where I want to be. I fight for my legacy. I fight um for other women, what I mean, that have gone through what I've gone through, or they're going through it now and just don't see an escape from it, or just in a dark place. I can tell you from my experience, and it is not just me talking, it's the truth, that you don't
Yeah.
have to live in darkness.
Well, and you sharing your story is huge, and that's why I do this podcast.
Yeah,
I want to do more interviews than I do. I've shared some of my story, but
yeah,
there's so many other stories out there and
yeah.
just powerful. And when I heard yours, I was just like, oh, it gave me goosebumps. Like I was blown away. And I'm like, we have to get her on, and talk to her because you are so positive and so happy. And you've been through a lot. There's even more
There's
than
a lot
this, right?
more.
Like
Yeah,
you've been through a
yeah.
lot. Yeah. And so it's like, I just love your energy. Like you're just so
I
fun
love
and
that. Thank
you
you.
crack me
And
up.
it and that's the thing, is that as much of a people will say we don't have a choice, but we really do. And I don't
Yes.
want to stomp on anybody's feelings, or take away from how anybody's feeling about what they're going through or what they've been through. Because if anyone could tell you, I promise you, more than anything, I understand the pain. I do. I
Yeah.
understand it. And I'm so grateful now that it's already happened, that maybe I've already been through all of it and I can understand. I'd never suffered depression before, up until the last 2 years when I lost communication with my son for 2 years. I'd finally found myself in this depression, and I'd been telling everybody, oh, I understand. Oh, I get it. And I really didn't until I went through it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Not having communication with your kids is
girl,
probably like,
yes, it was,
yeah,
it was probably,
that's hard.
out of all the things I've been through, that was probably the darkest place
Yep.
I've been in. And I felt like I was the
Amen.
mama rocking back and forth in a corner. Like I felt like I lost
Yep.
my mind, you know? And but can I tell you now that I'm so grateful that I went through it? I am, because our job
Mm-hmm.
here, for the way I think, is we're here to serve other people. We're here. Testimonies aren't just to have something to say to yourself. They're to talk to other people and say, "Hey, I have this
Yeah.
testimony." You can't go through hard things like that and not share it with people, because that's how
Yeah.
people overcome and see the light at the end of the tunnel. You're the light. All the stuff that you go through, you're the light for other people. And that's what I,
Yeah. And I think it's hard for us. We get in this mode, I think especially as women, like we don't want to share because we're afraid of being
yep.
judged. Like,
Uh,
and I'm sure you went
oh
through
yeah.
all, especially keeping the baby and
Yeah.
all of that, and it's like, but it really doesn't matter
Right.
because those people, they have their own things they're dealing with,
Right.
and that's why they're judging you, or they haven't been through
Absolutely.
some stuff yet that they're going. I
Right.
mean, if you've lived long enough, you're going to go through some
Right.
stuff. We all go through it. And so
Exactly.
it's important to share because then those of us who have been through things or, it's nice to hear other people and you're like, I'm not alone.
Right.
Like,
And that's the thing.
or I'm not a total weirdo.
Yes.
And, like,
Right. And it's like you don't necessarily want, you don't like to know that other people are hurting too, but at the same time, it's like you feel like you said, you're not, it makes you realize I'm not the only, because the thing that keeps us holding on to things so long is feeling like we're the only person going through it. Nobody else is going through it. It's
yeah,
just me by myself. When there's a million people going through the same thing, like me being assaulted, there's
so
somebody
many.
going through it right now as we're speaking
Yep.
on this podcast.
Yep.
Some woman out there or some kid or some man is going through exactly the same thing. And that's why we have to
Yep.
raise our voices. That's why we have to talk about it, because people need to know you're not alone and that you can overcome. You don't have to be a victim forever. You don't. You
Yes.
can overcome. You can be victorious. I say,
And that there is support.
yes,
There's support out there.
100%. You could be, I would leave my phone lines open all day long, 24/7, for any woman that needs to call and talk about something like
Right.
this, for any woman that needs
Yep.
to be uplifted or be able to, you know, when people ask me, well, how do you just forgive? Like, how do you do that? I can't really explain that process other than saying the way I think about myself is that I am a whole human being and I'm not about to let another human being take me from me. Like, is that my phone? It is. Hold on.
I think so.
It's not going off. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Oh,
We're live. We're raw.
right? Like, somebody is calling me. No. And another thing too, are you there, Steph?
Yeah.
Okay, it went away. Another thing too
Okay.
is that all of these experiences, I mean, honestly, like you said, I've been through a lot, and I've been through 3 marriages. I've been I'm in a relationship now for 12 years. We're a blended family, and it has been a not always a good time. It's hard to blend a family.
Yes.
I've been in relationships where the husbands have cheated on me. Can I tell you that has never, ever, ever decreased the value of myself? I don't feel invaluable.
Yes.
I don't feel unworthy. I don't feel like, too much has happened. I can't overcome it. In fact, all of those things that I have overcome has raised my value to myself.
Yes.
It has raised my value to myself. I've never let another person or another man or another human being ever make me feel like more than a minute. I can't say in just a second, I'm feeling like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? And why don't they love me? And all these things. Why did this happen?
But you're able to get over that
Yes. The
fast,
whole,
quickly. Yes.
because I'm thinking, this is my life. I just have
Yeah.
this one life. If I can't emphasize that more than anything, I have this one life. And I'm trying to, I don't know what's going on here. Um, and I'm trying to live it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's for whatever reason, that's really important to me, is to be able to live out
Yeah.
my life the way I had plans for my life too. They had their plans, they went through with their plans, and now I get through with my plans. You know what I mean? And that's
Yep.
that.
I love that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you had your plans and you got your plans done. Good for you. Now I got my own plans
Yep.
to get done. You know what I'm saying?
Rachel's living the way Rachel wants to live.
Yeah.
Period.
Like I said, you can have me for a
Period.
moment, but you can't have me for a life. You know?
And this is why I love your energy.
Oh, and I love you too. You're the same way. Like, we're like two peas in a pod, because I've heard your story too. I've heard your story too.
Yep. You know my story.
Yes, and look what you're doing with it. What you're doing right now,
Yeah.
that's what you do with your stories. You share
We
it,
have to,
you
but
share
you
it,
would not
you
have a
get other people
choice.
to share it. You get yourself out there and network to other women and find out what their stories are so they
Yep.
can share it. You are being a blessing to other women, and they need this so bad.
Well, we can't waste these things, right? These
Right.
experiences, like we can't. I feel like I can't waste it.
No,
I've got
you
to use it for
yes.
good. So
And that's true. All it's true. And when it says all things happen for the better, it's true. It
yeah,
can be true. It's not true for everyone because they don't make it true for themselves. You have to make it true for
right.
yourself. When it says all things work for the glory of God, it's true if you decide that's going to be your
Yes.
truth. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
That's right. And he can turn all things. I mean, there is something good comes out of every
And
situation we go through.
girl,
Like I've seen it over and
it's
over in my life,
true.
my
It's
childhood, all that.
yes.
I'm like, okay, I've learned so many things that I would have never thought that it was a
Yes,
lesson until I was older from when I was
right.
younger.
And Stephanie, when you've already been
So,
through it, when it's already happened, you have to learn something from it. You have to
yeah.
grow from it. You have to see if it's already happened,
Yes.
where in all this mess, because there could be a mess, it's like a big ball. It just looks all you can see is this big ball of a mess. But in the holes there, there is something beautiful that can come out of that. And we can say that, right? I know I can say that with full transparency and with full honesty because I have a beautiful daughter that's 33 years old now, that's got my first beautiful
Yep.
grandson, that is the most beautiful thing that came out of the most reckless, like
Yes.
terrible situation you can think of. It's
Right.
besides I've
Right.
been through all the things except for just dying and come back to life. I you know what I'm saying?
right.
You
Right.
know what
Yeah. Well, and I think like it's so when you're in that ball of mess, like you were just saying, in that darkness,
Yeah.
it's really easy to feel sorry for
Yes.
yourself and not see the light. Like you just think like there's no out.
Yes.
Like this, there's no way this is gonna get better.
Yep.
But if you keep your faith and you
Yep.
keep God first, and even when you don't feel like it,
Yes.
because girl, I was there. I'm like, I
Yes.
don't want to pray. I'm angry.
Yep.
Like, I don't
Yep.
want to pray. But it's true. Like you just have to keep going and keep
Yes.
trusting, and
It's
it
all on
always
you.
comes for His glory.
It's all, and
Yeah.
truthfully, it's all on you at some point. You can blame the person for what they did, but you can't blame the person for where you're going.
Yeah.
And you can't.
Yep.
You
Yep.
can blame the you can blame what happened. It happened, but where are you going from
Yep.
here? Because this person isn't here anymore. They've
Yeah.
gone on with their lives. They're laughing. They're talking. They're having families. They're doing whatever. And you're sitting in this mess. It is truthfully, I don't care what anybody says, and this can sound very, maybe not very, and honestly, it is very supportive. I'm supporting all the women in the world by saying, get up every day, put your feet on the ground, and keep moving because
Yeah.
you are the only one in control of where your destiny goes. That the person that has hurt you, the things that have happened, the circumstances that have happened are no longer in control. You are. They had the control when it
Yep.
happened, but if your life is going towards a mess and towards and it's not getting any better, then you only have yourself to look at. And that's
Yeah.
why you need support like us. And that's even helping yourself. Even if you get your foot on the floor and you just reach out to somebody, that's all you do for the day. That's
Yeah.
your first step. You just reach out for help. You don't do anything else. You
Yeah.
don't go to the store. You stay stuck inside your house, but you just make a phone call to somebody.
Be uncomfortable because that's where you're going to
Yes.
grow. If you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing.
Yes.
Period.
Yes. And and all these things that have happened. I talk to friends that are very negative about their situations a lot. And I'm looking at them like, you have the best opportunity to save someone's life with this. Like,
Right.
come on.
Right. And I think we talked about this the other day
It's-
too, is like just like we'll get emotional because you're like, I'm really emotional. I said, yeah,
Yeah.
girl, me too. And I used to be one of the like, I didn't cry because I grew up like, suck it up,
Yeah.
don't cry.
Yeah.
And I would just be, I'd hold it in at all costs, but like I cry all the time now.
Yeah,
But,
me too.
and my husband would be like, he'll be like, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing is wrong. Like, seriously, nothing. Like,
Yeah.
I just feel so grateful right now
Yes.
for like where life is
Yes.
going. You know what I
That's
mean?
how I
Like, crying
felt.
isn't always bad.
That's how I felt when you were giving me the facial the other day. I was laying there crying. I'm like, you couldn't even probably give me a
I
proper
know, you're
facial
so cute.
because I was just so emotional. And it's what you just said. It's looking at my marriage issues that have gone on in the past, thinking that I'm going to be divorced one minute, but so thankful that I'm with my husband still 12 years later with all the hell we've been through.
Yes.
It's just that God is so. He's so good and so merciful. He says for us to be in the
Yeah.
image of him, which won't be. He's perfect as much as like him as we can, and that is just it is forgiveness. It is merciful even to yourself.
Right. And we're not going to be perfect. We're not
Yeah.
going to, every day we're going to make
Yeah.
mistakes, but it's as long as we are getting up every day and trying again
Yeah.
and trying again and trying, we're
Yeah.
trying,
And see
but we're human.
and see that what has already happened, how you can use your mess to bless. That's it. Because
Yep. Yep.
be concerned about how what other people are going through too. You know what I mean? As
Yep.
much concern as you want for yourself when you're going through something, when you've already gone through that something,
Exactly.
use you now start being concerned about other people and using your message to bless somebody else. You can't
Yep.
be walking around just wanting everyone to be concerned about you all the time. You
Yes.
also take that what you're going through and be concerned about others and use it,
Yep.
speak up and talk about it. You know what I mean? Whether it be
Yep.
marriage,
It's beautiful.
blended families, uh, all the things, you know?
Yep. Yep.
So
It's
yeah,
beautiful. I love it. I love it so much. So we have talked so much. Is there anything else like I like to ask? Is there, for one, do you have like a favorite? And I don't think you're ready for this. So I don't think I put this in our notes, but
yeah,
do you have a favorite like scripture that you just hold on to all the time?
yeah. I don't think I have it right in my mind right now because there's so many of them that I love. Um,
I know there's a lot, right?
I would have to say, though I walk through the valley of death, I will fear no evil. That one,
Yeah.
a beautiful one, because we walk through the valley of death a lot, and fear is our biggest thing that holds us back, right? And truthfully,
Yep.
what
Yep.
does fear do? We are going to have to understand we're going to be in position to be fearful for the rest of our lives, you know? And
Yep.
fear is a really hard thing to not have. Even for myself today, I'll start feeling fearful.
It
Put this,
is.
I put this thing on my phone.
We have to do these pep talks to
We
ourselves all the
do.
time. It's kind of, have you heard that song, Fear is a Liar? Like, I
Yes.
love that song.
Fear
I just
is
crank that song up.
yes. I want to, so I have this thing on my phone that says, I choose faith over anxiety. I choose hope over worry. I choose love over fear. And I have that on my phone
Yep.
screen because you're
Love it.
looking at our phones all day. So every time I go to,
Yeah.
I see that every time. And that is something that we have to work on every day because lack of faith gives us anxiety about everything, right? Us
Yep.
having lack of hope, that that makes us worry about everything all the time, and having
So
love
good.
over
Yeah.
fear, you know what I mean? It's just such
So good.
it's a great one. Yeah. So that would probably be my
It
most
is.
favorite one.
That's awesome. I think
Yeah.
that's great. You're actually the second person that's said that was their
Yeah.
favorite. So my other interview I did said the same thing.
Really.
So I would love to hear a little bit now about current,
Yeah.
like so I want to hear about your business, what
Yeah.
you do, all the information, and we'll link all this information in the
Yeah.
description of this episode too.
So now, because I've not let all the circumstances of my life hold me back from doing what I wanted to do in life, right? My plans, fulfilling my
Mm-hmm.
purpose and plan. I have a business called Generational Gems Custom Designs, and we do promotional items for businesses. What we're trying to do is basically revolutionize the way people promote their businesses on tumblers, on pens, on stickers, and I mean we just have this whole colorful way of making things happen, and it's absolutely beautiful. Um, Not only are we doing that, what I'm trying to do is build a legacy with my business. I have a health issue that's kept me back
Yeah.
from being able to get life insurance. So I thought, okay, well, if I can't get life insurance, what better thing to do than to build a sustainable business for my family? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
this business is so cool because it's a business rooted in love and what do you call that? Persistent. I'm a very persistent person,
Mm-hmm.
and rooted in the fact um that life has not kept me from being and going where I want to go. You know what I mean? My
Yeah.
family and my generations after I'm gone are going to know my story. And then they're going to see this business that I
Yes.
built and think, and that's going to give them hope for their future. When they're going through things, I'm leaving a message to them. I'm saying, hey, you're going to know my story.
Yes.
You're going to know I've been through all these things, terrible. They're gonna know the ins and outs of all my life, right? And I'm gonna have built this thing for them, to the sustainable thing for them, not for financial gain, but it's my message that I can have to them every single day, that you can have
Yeah.
hope, that whatever you're going through right now, baby girl, is just temporary. It's not going to keep you from building your empire, right? You're
Yeah.
I
I
might
love
be their
that.
great Mimi, great Mimi, and they're going to know the story. And oh, my great Mimi went through all this stuff, and here I am in this darkness. If she can move into the light, so can I. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is the main, that is, so I'm very intentional. I leave messages on Facebook, Instagram, because I know that it's going
Yep.
to go around forever. And when I'm no longer here, my future can look at those messages and see me talk, see my advices, see me working out at the gym,
Yeah.
see me doing all the, do
Yes,
all this stuff.
girl.
Listen, I do it on purpose.
Hear you on a
Hear me on
podcast.
the podcast, hear this message right now, that message of hope and
Yep.
endurance. You know, all of that is so important. It's going to be so important as
I
this
love that.
world gets worse. They're going to need this message even more, you know?
Yeah.
And that's,
And not only is it you're, rooted in that. That's the most important part.
yeah.
But also her tumblers are awesome.
Oh,
She made
thank
me
you.
one. So,
They're
yeah,
beautiful.
and if you go on my socials, you'll see it. It's on there somewhere down a ways,
Yeah.
but yeah, I
Well, thank
love my
you,
Tumblr.
Stephanie. I love
Yeah,
it.
you did a really good job
This
on it.
this is this is so awesome. Like I'm gonna be honest, like I was very nervous and I've still been nervous through the whole thing. And it's probably gonna sound a little bit all over the place, but the message is there. You know, the
That's
message
okay.
is
It's real.
yeah, and it's real talk. It's not something that I rehearsed and sat over and like, okay, I'm gonna say it just like this. And
Right.
I feel for me, it resonates to me more when people are talking real talk and it's just it kind of is all over the place.
Yep.
You're getting the message though that this person has really been through a lot. I love hearing messages from other people when they've gone through a lot and it's all over the place, but I get it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty
Yeah.
and just going with the flow, you know what I mean? And it
Well, we had a whole list of like questions and
yeah.
we didn't even we're just going with it. Like I love that. I think it just works out better when,
Yeah.
and you're easy to talk to. Like
Oh,
you're
thank
just
you.
so, I don't know. So, yeah, it's way better than sitting there reading off a bunch of
Yeah,
questions
right.
and having
So
yeah. Everybody gets nervous. Like
whenever you
I get nervous. No, I don't. Yeah.
whenever you sent
But I still just do it.
whenever you sent me the questions, I was like, I don't know if I want to, because it kind of made me a little bit nervous, right? Because I'm like, okay, I didn't have to answer all these questions, but at the same time, I thought I'm going to just do the naturalist thing, and it's basically along the same lines of your questions that you already had, but
Right.
yeah. So I'm glad it just turned out that we did it this way, where it's just kind of
This worked out better.
and yeah, you
Yeah.
know,
And honestly, we weren't even going to record today. We were actually just going to do like a little test run and see, because this is the first time I've sent a link over and done it this way. Usually I
yeah,
have I have people in my closet where I record.
you got to keep
But it worked
talking.
out and it just worked. And I'm like, this is flowing. So let's just
Yeah.
get it over with. And I mean,
I think it's
whatever
great.
works, right?
I think it turned out great. I could see myself a little bit
Yeah.
kind of like all over the place, but I was just like, oh, I don't know. I can't, I'm gonna be like this no matter what.
But that's
You
you.
know, that's me.
That's your personality.
Me.
You are. You're all over the
I
place.
am.
I love it.
I am. And I and
Well, I appreciate you so much being on here. And like I said, I will leave her business information in the
yeah.
description notes. So if you need some tumblers, or what else do you do? What else do you
We do.
offer?
We're doing
Tumblers?
all the promotional items now. We're doing tumblers. We're doing pins. We're doing stickers. We're doing banners. We're doing
Nice.
business cards. We're doing all. It's so funny because we started off just being tumblers. And I remember one of the a
Yeah.
businessman talked to me one time. He's like, "It's going to grow into much different than that. You're going to have to do more than tumblers."
Right.
So
It always
tumblers
does.
is our main thing because we can make such beautiful tumblers that are so that fit the idea of your business and what you're trying to accomplish there, like with the colors and with the taglines and the QR codes and all that stuff. It's just
Mm-hmm.
recently we've just moved into doing all the things, hats, t-shirts, everything, you
Oh,
know?
well,
Yeah,
you and I are going to be talking then
yeah, let's
because
do
I'm going
it
to be
for
needing
sure.
some things.
We would
I
definitely love
have
to.
pins. I need more. Yeah. I'm so glad that you're doing that. That's
Yeah, yeah,
awesome. So,
and I'm sure it'll go into much more at some point, but it's grown so fast. And I want to tell anyone
yeah.
that if anyone that buys something from us, I don't know why this is important to me. It is not more important to me with my business that I'm making money. It's important to me that I'm making an impact. You know what I mean? So
100%.
if I go the rest of my life, I just have the small business out of my house and it never grows into a big building, I don't really care. It's the impact that I'm
Yes.
making on people's lives because each customer that I get to have be a customer, I get to talk to them. I get to share with them
Yep.
stuff.
Connection.
Yes, it is an opportunity,
Yep.
to be
And that's what I love about WCE.
yeah,
Like
love
that's
that.
where we met, is through this networking group. It seems like I've been a member now for almost a year, and it's like
Yeah.
almost every single woman I've met through there is the same.
Yeah.
We're older, right? We're
Yeah.
not like super young. Most of us, we're in our midlife now. And
Yeah.
it's like we start these businesses for a
Yes.
purpose. It's not
Right.
just to have a business. Like there's always a story behind
That's
it.
right.
And that's what I love about it. And then we network and we fellowship. And then,
Yeah.
like us, you're getting facials and I'm getting tumblers.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
it's
I
just,
love
I don't know. It's just
And then
amazing.
you're meeting, it's hard to make when you're 51 years old, you've been raising kids your whole life. It's hard, you don't really have friends, you know what I mean? Really, you're married, you got
Yes.
kids, you've been raising kids. And so now that my kids are all out of the house, it's kind of like you're trying to figure out what,
Yeah. You're like, what do I do
I don't
now?
have any friends, like, you know what I'm saying? So you
I have no purpose. I have no
yeah,
life. What
like
am I doing?
WCE has maybe some really great friend connections, like you and
Yes.
Fosca and things like that. Like it's been a
Same.
really it's been kind of cool being older and the kids moving out of the house now, finding
Yeah.
yourself and
I know. Once you get used to it,
yeah,
it's hard at first,
yeah, it
right? Like it
really
was
is.
hard for me. That was part of my
Because
biggest
it's so
fall was
quiet
just like
now.
I felt worthless, like I had no
Yeah,
purpose in life, but now I'm like, okay,
yeah. Now
like
I found
I'm
a new
kind of
thing.
liking
Look what you're
this.
doing now. This is what you're
Like I'm me again.
right?
Yeah, I can be me.
Exactly.
Like I can focus on me
You're
and
not
like do
just a
my
mom,
things
you're
and
also a person. We
right.
get so caught up in we're
Right.
just
Yeah.
moms and we're going to taking the kids to football games and doing all this stuff. And you
Yeah.
leave, it's like, hold on, who am I gonna mom? You know? You know,
Right.
you're kind of looking at
Right.
your
And then people are like, "Well, don't you have hobbies?" I'm like,
yeah,
"No, I
no. I
didn't."
don't have hobbies.
Like now I
But
do,
isn't that
but I didn't.
cool?
Yeah.
It's so cool that you
It
do
is.
it's
It really
the
is.
light at the end of the tunnel does come. You just have to wait, and that's
Yep.
the hardest thing is to wait
It
for
always
it.
gets better.
Yes, it does.
Because our timing is not the same as the Lord's, right?
That's
We're like,
right, for sure.
"Not me, I'm impatient."
I'm
Oh,
very
yeah.
impatient. I'm like, "God, for real? Are you serious?" Like, I gotta wait a
I know.
whole year by now. And the thing is thank God for the unanswered prayers. You know what I mean? Seriously. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Do you know how
100%,
many prayers I
100%.
had that I'm thankful for now? Like, I'm so glad you didn't answer that prayer, God. Like, thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I'm glad you didn't listen to me because
Yeah,
clearly I'm not the one in charge here.
that's so
Well, thank you so much
thank
for
you
being
so
on the
much for
show. I
having
really
me.
appreciate
You're
it.
awesome.
And yeah, like we need to go have coffee again
Yes,
soon.
let's do
Another
that.
3-hour coffee date.
Let's do that. For
Definitely.
love you so
A-
much. Thank
All
you.
right, Rachel. Thank
Thank you.
you.
I'll talk to you later. Keep your heads up, ladies.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Beyond Beauty with Stephanie. Remember, true beauty goes beyond what we see on the outside. It's about finding strength in your story and sharing those stories with others as encouragement to help others find strength when they may be feeling defeated. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Be sure to share it with a friend who might need a little encouragement today, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep showing up for yourself, stay kind, and keep embracing your beautiful journey.